Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Nutanix Weekly, one of the many podcasts here at XenTegra. We like to call it content with context because we find the best content on the web and we add our real world context to the story. Uh, I can't do this alone. I am your host, Phil Sellers, and so I have to bring along reinforcements, have to bring along help. And so this episode, I've got two of the best, my team members here at XenTegra, part of the modern data center. I've got Andy Greene, a solutions architect with us, and I've got Chris Calhoun, a solutions architect with us. Both these guys are pretty unique. They've been customers, they've worked at vendors. Both of them spent some time with Nutanix, a number of years actually each. So I'm really happy to have you guys on my team. But why don't we just take a quick minute and talk a little bit about kind of your stories and share kind of how did you get to XenTegra? I'll throw it to Chris first. What did your path look like? Because it wasn't a direct path to working here with us. You've had a couple of left turns and right turns in your career, haven't
Yeah,
you?
that's exactly right. I'd say unexpectedly, very happy to be here. Um, but I started out in education as a teacher. So I taught for about 9 or so years in the local school system here in Gaston County. And got interested in technology because, hey, he's the guy that will give up some of his planning time to help you fix a problem. So
Mhm.
one of the county IT guys gave me some CBT nuggets, if you remember those training CDs, and that kind of spurred my interest, along with some nights and weekends at New Horizons Computer Learning Center. Got certified, got to Compass Group on the customer side, was there for like 15 years. That's where I picked up Nutanix, Cohesity, that kind of thing. So then opportunity opened itself at Nutanix, spent 5+ years there, and here now for 1 year. So definitely happy to be here today, and glad that this topic is a highlight of our discussion today, because I think it's very appropriate for IT guys, those that are possibly uh, concerned. In myth busting migrations is definitely something that we need to talk about today.
Yeah, I agree. So fun fact, I spent a little bit of time teaching too. I bet you didn't
Hmm.
know that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I taught adult education classes. My computer technology teacher in high school recruited me to help her with some adult education classes at night around computer technology. So
That's
I've
awesome.
done a little bit of teaching myself.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So yeah, so teacher turned technologist turned vendor, sales engineer, now a solutions architect here with us. Um, in earlier episodes, you'll listen for me to ask how Chris is doing, and it's always just a cheery and sunny, doing really well. So I'm happy to have you around and have you here to be able to talk to folks. Um, we've also got Andy Greene. Andy, you've also had kind of a number of different roles over the last few years that led you to us. How did you get here?
Yeah, so great question. For the most part, for the entirety of my IT career, I worked on the vendor side of the house prior to coming to XenTegra. So, like a lot of people, I started out doing support for IBM servers back in the early 2000s. It was a really good time to be working with technology and servers, because there was just a tremendous amount of change happening. Through that role, I got some really good experience working with their fiber channel storage arrays. And that was at that early time when VMware was really just starting to break out, and that shared storage became incredibly important in the data center. So it was a really good time to be working with servers, working with storage, and seeing the early iterations of virtualization for Intel servers as well. From there, my career took a little bit of a turn, and more of a project management type of role. So I helped bring a lot of servers to market. I helped build pre-sales configuration tools, basically all of the things that were needed to announce a new server and bring it to market. So I was working with those teams in around the 2014 time period when Lenovo bought that server business from IBM. So I ended up over at Lenovo by way of the purchase of the System X and System Storage brands from IBM. Um, from there, I decided I was ready for a career change. I worked as a inside account executive for a year. That was my first sales type role. And during that time period, Lenovo forged a partnership with Nutanix, and Nutanix was a company that I was very aware of at that point. But I was really interested in the technology. I had read pretty much the entirety of the Nutanix Bible nutanixbible.com. And I saw that it was a really game-changing technology, and I wanted to be a part of that. So I went over to Nutanix as a systems engineer. It gave me that opportunity to really lean on some of those technical skills that I developed earlier in my career. It was a really great fit for me, and I spent 6.5 really good years with Nutanix. From there, I jumped ship, went over to Cohesity for a couple of years. I worked on data protection and cyber recovery with my clients here in the Carolinas, and that was another great experience. But in the end, during my work both at Nutanix and Cohesity, I was working with the XenTegra teams, and what I saw here was a company that was really passionate about what they were doing. We had some really great, client executives, and I liked the passion that they brought to the business, and their interest in really connecting clients with the right technology and adding a lot of value to the traditional sales process. So, started having some conversations with Philip and came over, and it's just been a fantastic fit. Being able to leverage the Nutanix skills, the backup and recovery, and cyber resilience skills, all of that combined has just made this role a really good fit for me. So, very happy to be here and glad to be a part of the podcast today.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. And it's great that you've had experience inside of the vendors. I mean, both of you guys working at Nutanix has been great because you bring forward so many relationships and a deep knowledge of the platform. And even though you've got that deep knowledge, I think it's important to also point out that you guys are still learning. I'm still learning because every day at Nutanix, they're releasing something new. They're moving things forward. So we get to continue that journey together with them. And, the things we talk about here, sometimes, we're preparing ahead of time and learning as we're presenting it back out and talking about it here on the podcast. So it's a never ending journey. And that's one of the things I really love about this job, this career, is the ability for us to continue to advance things over time. I think if it was the Groundhog's Day, and we were doing the same thing day in and day out, I would be very, very bored and wouldn't last long.
Yeah, for sure. I think lifelong learners is definitely a common phrase that I like to use in this role because you're never going to be up to speed on the latest and greatest, but you can always pick up an extra bit of information and then help evangelize and pass that on to others along the way too. I definitely think that that's a big part of this role in general.
Well, if you're listening along and going, well, why are we talking about people's careers? Why are we talking about people's background? Well, there is a reason. The content that we're reviewing today is migration myth busting. Chris alluded to this earlier, but this is a blog post out on nutanix.com/blogs. And it poses the question, why moving from VMware isn't as scary as you think. It's written by Nicholas Hollian, Worldwide Field CTO at Nutanix. So shout out to Nicholas. Thanks for giving us something to talk about today. But I made a point of talking about our career paths and how we got here because that really goes into this blog post and topic. Migrations have been scary in the past. Early in my career, I will say I definitely took migrations very seriously, understanding the risks that came alongside of them, moving and replatforming things. I remember when Blade servers first came and you could switch out the hardware and move an OS. Um, it wasn't seamless. We had to inject drivers. We might have had things that didn't boot and we had to fail back. And so it never came without risks. And I think it's a timely topic with so many people looking to migrate away from VMware due to changes with licensing and pricing. Um, Migration's a scary topic. Chris, as you were a customer at Compass Group, how scary were the migrations and stuff that you guys undertook?
I can definitely remember a few integrations with, we'll say, some of our subsidiary companies that we were folding into the mold, whether it was a migration around mailboxes,
Mm.
BlackBerry servers, if that dates me a little bit, as a past Bez admin. Um, so knowing that my role in that was a critical role that had to go smoothly. Of course, there was a lot of planning, lot of wringing of hands, sweating of, oh my goodness, it's my time. And it was almost please, oh please, almost a relief if things went well, not a joyous celebration. It was, whew. And that's the approach that I'd say a lot of uh, IT guys have for change just in general, as far as being either part of it, whether they are a part of a merger type situation or whether they're responsible for learning new technology, implementing new technology. To me, I've in the past definitely had to blend my adversity or adverseness to change as opposed to, okay, let's be flexible and realize that it's not a bad thing. Change is good, and that's really one of the key points of emphasis. The very first line, obviously, the only consistent and constant thing in life is change. So I think that addresses a lot of IT guys in their careers from either past stories they can tell or nowadays now the future proofing technology and oh my gosh, we've got to make a decision. What route should we go? What factors do we have to consider? So I think that that's all a part of our discussion today, so I think that that's going to be real helpful and enlightening and hopefully relaxing some of the engineers that listen to the podcast.
Yeah, as you're talking about this, it's like our experience, our collective experience is kind of like farmers insurance. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. And, part of what we try to do is help our customers not stumble over that thing or two we've seen and keep them from experiencing the same pain that we might have experienced in our careers.
Yeah.
The blog post here really starts off with a perfect quote. The only constant in life is change. And so we talked about that. IT in general is always changing. And so the only constant in IT is change. That's also said here in the blog post. And that's 100% true, especially where we find ourselves today. We're in an intense period of change because of the acquisition of VMware by Broadcom. So let's set up the myth busting here, and we're going to walk through these one by one. But we're going to go through some of the most common myths about migration, and there are things that are risky. There are things that may seem more risky, and so the goal would be to educate everybody about what we've seen, how things work, and maybe at the end of this, you'll feel better about if Nutanix is the right platform for you, the migration piece is not going to be something that's going to break you. So, Andy, I'm going to have you lead off with myth number one. What's the first myth?
Migration means all or nothing. Um,
Yeah, I've been through some of these where we didn't have a choice,
Yeah.
and all or nothing was the thing. What are some of the ways that Nutanix gives us that it's not all or nothing?
Yeah, I think there are many different reasons that might drive us towards a new platform, and one of those really common one is just aligning with planned hardware refresh cycles. It's great if we have everything coming up for refresh at the same time, maybe all of the hosts, the storage, the hypervisor, it's all co-termed and it all comes up for refresh at the same time. But even when it doesn't, there can still be opportunity there. And one thing that we've seen many times over is maybe you have some hosts that are due for retirement this year. We can retire those hosts and we can move those workloads onto Nutanix. And as you retire more hosts, we can migrate additional workloads. The Nutanix platform makes it very easy to scale. So, every time we add a node, we're giving you the compute, the memory, and the storage that you need to add those additional workloads. So over time, we can start to evacuate some of those older hosts. And when we get to that point that the storage is up for refresh, typically the clients have had such a great experience with Nutanix that they're ready to go all in and migrate everything. But there's some other strategies that we can use there. Obviously, we want to look for existing or planned patching or maintenance windows to reduce downtime. In some cases, we're seeing the clients have gear that we can reuse. Nutanix does have a pretty tightly controlled hardware compatibility list, but for the most part, all of the servers that we're seeing out on the market, they're all using largely the same parts. And so in some cases, we can repurpose some of those existing hosts. We can retire it from the existing infrastructure, redeploy it as a Nutanix node as part of a Nutanix cluster. And then over time, we can start to make that shift from the previous infrastructure into the new. So, a lot of different options there. And then I think the last one I would say is just as you have new applications spinning up, bring the new workloads. If you're looking for a change, if you're ready to try a new platform, a new application can be a great time to stand up a small cluster and get your foot in the door.
Yeah, we talk about, a lot of times we don't necessarily create boundaries in our clusters based on technology reasons. Sometimes it's a licensing reason. So maybe you take a subset that's maybe your Linux servers, or maybe you take a subset that's your Windows or your Citrix and VDI, and you repurpose around the application. I think that's a great recommendation. Swing gear, being able to do things in phases. Anytime you have the ability to not make it a big bang, you mitigate risk. And that's one of the great things about the Nutanix strategy is you buy yourself a lot of independence if you're standing up parallel infrastructure for your migration. So, Chris, I'm going to throw to you. What is myth number 2?
Here's where obviously it comes down to specifics around your environment. And this is the second myth. Everything must be recertified. And of
Yeah.
course, that's a very daunting task if it were true. And that's the thing. Must is the key word there. The point that it makes through this myth is talking about the fact that of course, some of the key phrases, and I'm air quoting here, an application early on was VMware certified. Well, that meant at the time taking it from a physical application running an individual physical server, purpose built for that application, to now what Andy was talking about, the shared backend storage, the virtualization platform. That's when it was VMware certified. But one of the key points to what it makes here is this. It's not at that level where the VMware certified part pretty much happened and got validated and the head nod of approval. It was at the OS level where the application's running. If the application runs on Windows, it's going to run on Windows whenever you migrate to Nutanix. The hypervisor, which is the underlying goodness from VMware to Nutanix, that would be changing. But the core application itself with the underlying operating system won't change. So Windows to Windows, Linux to Linux, for example. So that's really one of the key factors as a takeaway that I think as engineers, we have to help educate our upper level management because they sometimes hear that everything must be recertified. So I think that that's where, um, again, this session today will help you relate back to your management team of, hey, let's reassure you that we're replatforming. That's not going to mean a total rewrite of the application. It's the underlying underpinning foundation of the virtualization layer, but not the core application. And I think that that's really the part that is really key. I've Here's as a quick aside. I we just finished working with a customer who was moving from VMware to Nutanix AHV. I specifically call out that because in the past they were a Nutanix customer on VMware, but Philip and I took a list of about, we'll say, 15 or so troubled VMs that the customer was concerned with because they were either appliances or they were worried about the air quotes, ooh, this was only certified on VMware at the time. Well, we've moved past that in the years, and several applications that had been only VMware. That's the only platform of choice if you're going to virtualize anything. Well, that has those restrictions have kind of lessened, and we've successfully migrated that customer, and those 15 VMs that were the troubled kids successfully either got redeployed if it was an image-based appliance on Nutanix AHV, or it got migrated over. So the worry about, oh my gosh, we've got that one weird system, or we've got 3 or 5 weird systems, don't let that hold up your future technology plans for, ooh, I don't want to mess with this one VM. It's scary. Don't let it be scary. Take that out of the frame and understand that your recertification is only validating that can this application successfully run on AHV? And we'll get to it, and we've talked about it before. Nutanix Move can migrate that system. You can always fail back. So there are always plans involved, and Nutanix does a good job, as we've always said, of making the difficult simple to the end user. So that's kind of part of this reassurance today. I almost think of it as an engineer therapy session. Don't give up on Nutanix early and just be comfortable with VMware because, hey, that's what I've done for 10, 15 years. I'm at the last 5 years of my career. I don't want to be involved in any type of change. Guys, this is the way of the future. We're not Nostradamus and predicting the future, or I'm not rubbing my shiny bald head. But I'm telling you, migrations as a customer, from ESX to Nutanix are smooth, easy, and they're not the pitfall to be worried about. These myths, we're busting them, bust them, bazinga, wide open.
Chris, I love that. Listening to today's podcast, look for your therapy bill in the email very soon, payable to my Venmo. But you called out some amazing things right there. So, one, let's talk about certification. Certification has changed significantly in the last few years. And so almost every application we run into is AHV certified. And certification really goes down to not a technical certification, not a technical can it run, but it goes down to supportability, right? Is your software vendor going to support you on this platform? And the answer is universally yes. There's only a handful of things, notably Cisco Call Center, that don't carry that certification of support. And outside of that one application that comes to mind, you're seeing healthcare vendors, electronic medical records, all sorts of PACS systems, imaging systems, ERPs across the board. They're endorsing and saying AHV is a certified platform. And so you can move safely and with confidence because the industry has embraced this. And that's a change over the last, I would say, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Myth number
One quick,
three. Oh, go
one
ahead.
quick note to add on that. I just remembered I had a customer. You were mentioning Cisco. Cisco ICE happens to be AHV supported,
Oh, yeah.
approved, validated about, we'll say, 2+ years ago. With that functionality, that allowed a specific customer of mine to move directly to AHV with no doubt, no question. And it's like you said, it's just that validation of they need to see that it's supported and then they're fine. So it's more of a blessing from a supportability, as you mentioned,
Right.
Philip. And I think that that's really the key. Sorry, I just needed to add that because to me, that was a big win for the customer. It was a huge relief that their technology was going to be supported going forward, and this wasn't going to be a showstopper.
Absolutely. Rolling into myth number three, cost comparisons are apples to apples. This is a huge one because um, that's one of the easy ways to try and justify other scenarios. So as we dig into this one, Andy, I'll go to you. What do we need to make sure when we start looking at cost comparisons?
Yeah, I think the key thing here is just that these types of comparisons tend to be flawed from the start. It's pretty common scenario. A client might get a renewal quote for their VCF licensing, and they're looking for something comparable from Nutanix. But what we find is when we start to really dig into the features that they need, Nutanix has many different licensing levels and licensing models that can be very favorable depending on the features that are needed. So rather than having that single quote that's almost an all or nothing type of package, we can really customize that and pare it down to just the features that are relevant to the client. And when we do that, in a lot of cases, we start to see a very dramatic shift in the pricing model there. I think just the key thing there is when we're right sizing that solution to just the client's requirements, it just gives us that flexibility, that freedom to align the costs more closely with the value that they're seeking, and avoiding paying for features that we're never going to use.
Yeah, so two key points there, right? VMware sells VCF. That's largely the only thing you can buy, and it is a all or nothing kind of bundle. Nutanix offers levels where you can right size it to your needs, but they also sell it in different configurations. So there is the per core cost, which is very similar to VCF, but then there is an edge per VM licensing model for edge deployments up to 25 VMs. There's also an EUC. So when you're running this, you can pay by the user or by the concurrent VM for users. And so you've got a couple of different really great options that give you choice, which has been eliminated from the VMware portfolio. And so that is an advantage for customers at the end of the day. So that's a huge part of it. The other major thing to make sure that you're looking at is not to compare just your cost of what vSphere used to cost you, because guess what? That product's no longer available. You're going to be forced into VCF, which is a full stack. And if you're looking at just the cost of a hypervisor compared to a full HCI stack, they're going to be different. That's apples and oranges. And so many customers are still looking at what they paid traditionally for VMware versus what they're paying for a full stack HCI offering. The bottom line is VMware is going to force you down that path anyway. And so make sure that you're getting an apples to apples comparison. But yeah, I agree with everything you just said, Andy. And this is a tough one because they're very different models. HCI has a very different procurement model, and we've talked about that on past podcasts too. You're buying what you need today with the ability to easily scale up, as opposed to buying for what you need in 6 years and having to, depreciate that capital purchase and buy more really than what you need today. So that's another thing I think that folks need to look at when they're talking about total cost comparisons between alternative solutions. All right, Chris, you're up next with myth number 4.
All righty. Perfect time for educational background for both of us. Myth number 4, you'll have to retrain everyone from scratch. So obviously to me, this is not a foreign language.
You're
And
right. And
and
I'm going to jump in for just a minute because I
all
want to do
righty.
a quick poll over both of you guys. When we sell Nutanix HCI, how long does it normally take for us to train somebody? What do we normally do?
Interestingly enough, we even say teach them how to fish. So, throughout the process, even during some of the migrations, and I'll answer the poll, but I also want to throw in this. So whenever you were given or whenever you got your first smartphone, you didn't read the manual. It's not like you had to figure out a highly in-depth new operating model. It's some of the similar common infrastructure with just different terms,
Mhm.
categories, tags, vCenter, Prism Central. The same technology and overarching management is done the same way. The create VMs, update VMs, all of that's part of the same thing. So really key to the way things are done within Nutanix.
You can't
Future
see
proof.
it, but I'm pointing at my watch for Chris to give me a number. How much time
Oh,
does it take? How much time?
sorry, I got
That's okay.
excited. Um, Andy, how much time?
I've seen the client's eyes light up many times just doing simple things like demos, right? We get into a
Absolutely.
demo, they've never seen Nutanix's hypervisor before. They're coming from that VMware background. They're expecting maybe a certain level of complexity. And when we show them how easy it is to create VMs, replicate, update, delete, how little time you're going to spend managing the storage, when we show them how easy it is to scale the platform with one-click upgrades, how easy it is to patch with one-click, I'm sorry, one-click expansion for scaling and one-click upgrades for patching everything from the hardware all the way up to the hypervisor, their eyes really light up and they can see that this is something they can do. So, I think you guys are hitting on the right point. It's bringing that iPhone-like simplicity to the data center. And in a lot of cases, all it takes is a demo, and these people realize like this is something that I can take on. This isn't a scary beast. I don't need a long training class, and I'm not telling you not to get training because we're always going to pass on a tremendous amount of knowledge through any type of training that we do. But I've seen the people's eyes light up and they see the simplicity in the product, and I think that's really key here.
Oh,
So
you
what
guys.
was your number, Andy?
4 hours.
4 hours.
Four
Okay.
hours? Really? You think 4 hours? I think 15 minutes.
Well,
Honest
I
to
would
God.
say, you know what? During that demo that Andy's talking about, if the gears start turning,
Yeah.
it's okay, wow, I can make my job easier with a similar platform with an easier to read consumable interface and even some of the built-in technology we call it the if this then that part of it, the X play, cross play, whichever you call it, it gives you back nights and weekends because it's automation built into the platform that as an engineer day to day makes your life easier. So I would say an hour is my
Oh,
number. After it
we
took us forever.
none of us agreed though. Okay, so Andy, I can understand 4 hours. If we're going to go through the whole portfolio and we're going to show and do a deep dive of how it does data balancing and how everything works under the hood, okay, I can certainly see 4 hours. I think 15 minutes to an hour, like you said, during a demo, most people are going to grok it. They're going to understand. And really, that's the extent of retraining. If you've got someone that's coming from a VMware background, they understand the basic concepts of attaching a VM to a network, deploying, resizing, virtual hardware. None of that changes. Matter of fact, it's just in a better user interface now. And so, really understanding the constructs of the menu and where to find things within about 15 minutes to an hour, I think most administrators will be able to get their job done. For whoever's having to manage and life cycle and things like that, yeah, we can go into some more things, but honestly, it's a highly consistent user interface. It's very approachable. I love the iPhone analogies. That's a great way to talk about this because nobody really trained us how to use that.
Yeah.
My 70-year-old mom can use her iPhone very effectively. That's a testament to how intuitive a user interface can be. So I totally agree with everything you guys both just said, and I'm glad we had a little bit of fun polling the panelists today.
Well,
Well,
I'll share one thing, and I don't mind saying this at all. In my early days as a Nutanix SE, doing demos every single day, multiple demos a day, I can't tell you how many times a client or a prospect asked me, "Well, how do I do such and such?"
Mhm.
And my go-to answer for that very quickly became, I don't know, but I bet we can figure it out. And
Mhm.
over and over again, myself and the client were able to very, very quickly figure out exactly how to do the things that they were asking. So just having that confidence level of knowing that I'm not going to sit here digging through menus and searching KB articles for the next 2 or 3 hours. To be able to have that confidence to do that live on a demo with a client, and that's a big part of how I learned the platform and how I grew as an SE as well. So yeah, it's the truth. It really is that simple.
Well,
yeah.
and there's one other aspect here that our author does talk about, and that's that you're not going at this alone. You've got partners and partners in the partner community, and that's really the role that we play here from XenTegra. We've done, I would argue, close to 1 million migrations. That's my number. I'm sticking to it. Um, because we've helped lots and lots of clients do their migrations at this point and be successful in this. But we're not alone in that. Nutanix has given us great tools in order to be able to do migrations. So, Chris, I'm going to throw to you. Let's talk a little bit about Nutanix Move
Yep.
and some of that tooling and how does that work to help us?
Absolutely. And one thing I want to point out too, you said we're not alone. Seeing the eyes light up of these engineers, like Andy, you mentioned, hey, ooh, that's how it is, and it's that simple. That to me is the empowerment that as lifelong learners in the engineering slash IT world, we know, hey, how do we discover more? And I think Nutanix does a fantastic job of that empowerment. We, of course, help as partners. We can help with training specifically around that and preparing for Nutanix migration, as well as boot camps, lunch and learns. We've got all kinds of events and stuff around that. So I think that to your point, Phil, we'll talk about that, but specifically around Nutanix Move, and I want to do a quick story here. Whenever I was with Nutanix, one of my best customers, I was able to sit down with them in an afternoon and show them how to use Nutanix Move. They then were basically then responsible for migration of all of their workloads from warehouse distribution centers from a big name business in North Carolina. And they comfortably said, oh, yeah, we know how to do Nutanix Move. We've got it set up. We're ready to go. Let's just go ahead and move on to the next PO because we're ready to conquer the next distribution center. I think it really helps when the tooling itself from Nutanix that is included free really helps in the process. Not to go into any of the technical details, but Nutanix Move connects to both sides. basically your VMware environment and your target Nutanix AHV environment, and you inventory the systems that you have from their VMware side and put together a strategy of, hey, look, because this application has 4 specific VMs, we need to run those in sequence in the sense that those need to be grouped together. Well, perfect. Create those logical, specific tribal knowledge sequences that you have that your business needs. And you obviously know your business better as engineers. Create those. And then, as Andy mentioned, use your downtime for patches, for scheduled maintenance, move applications in small chunks so that this process is not a daunting task. That's really the key to some of this is make sure that you consume small chunks during your migration if you can afford it. And if it doesn't need to be one big bang cutover, but that helps you as an IT engineer make sure that the application's tested thoroughly, as well as making sure that your users go in, validate, yes, the application's moved over, check, let's move on to the next one. Then you've created a repeatable process, and we would love to sit down with you and walk through that. Some of our service engineers are fantastic at helping map out those interdependencies, and Nutanix does well with that as well. I've had several strategy sessions with customers where we've said, okay, let's tackle this. And almost if there's any football fans here, most NFL teams, most college teams script out, we'll say the first 10 plays that they want to run per game so that they know exactly the sequence of events. That's part of what we do to help customers. Nutanix Move is a fantastic tool to do that. So, and it's even becoming even more expansive in the sense that it'll help with file shares. And I think even the latest release does even more than that. I think that there was an announcement made on that release just recently too. So I'll quit babbling, but Nutanix Move, I couldn't emphasize how great of software tooling and how a relief it is to see that they've accounted for that as part of the migration.
So to me, Nutanix Move is a lot like VMware Converter was back in the
Yes,
days where we were moving from physical to virtual in the very same way. This makes a platform move very, very approachable, orchestrated, easy. To quote
good point
Staples,
of reference.
that was easy.
Yep.
So, it's one of those things. Um, Andy, the role that we play as partners, there's a lot of resources that both our company and Nutanix put out there available to customers. Can you talk a little bit about some of those resources and how they help a customer when it comes to migration and feeling comfortable?
Sure, sure. Yeah. So, here at XenTegra, we do a lot of Nutanix workshops. We do some webcasts as well. I would encourage everybody out there to go to our events page, xentegra.com/events. You may find events in your area. We also have the ability to do demos. We have a demo environment. We can always hop in there and show off the platform, answer any questions that you might have, and really deep dive into some of those topics that you might be a little bit unsure about. From there, Nutanix has some tools that are available as well. They have Nutanix University, which has some online training that's going to be available. They also have Nutanix Test Drive, which gives you the ability to basically take an instance of a Nutanix cluster for a test drive and deploy some workloads. There are many different flavors of that, whether you want to focus on databases or anything else. So there can be some good options out there on the Nutanix Test Drive site. And then, I think the last thing that I would mention is if we ever need to do any type of further POC testing or anything like that, we can certainly work with your Nutanix account teams and do our best to make that happen as well.
Yeah, I think when we talk about POCs, one of the things that we also have available to us through the Nutanix sales teams is something known as a hosted POC or an HPOC. And so we can get those spun up on demand. So if your team wanted to be able to look at and demo things and upload and test a real cluster, we have the ability to do that in a HPOC. So those are very easy and approachable things that go along with the other resources. We love doing workshops. We love doing this, one-on-one with a company, or we love doing this for our community as planned events. Anything that you may need, you can always reach out and request, even if it's not something on a regularly scheduled event basis. So there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to learning and enablement around Nutanix that we can offer, and so can your Nutanix sales team. So we work together on those sorts of things. Another great plug is the fact that we offer conference passes, at a huge discount to Nutanix.next. That's one of the great resources. It's their annual large conference, and so they talk about all of their newest announcements and roadmap and other technical enablement during the week. This year it was in Washington, D.C. And so we would love to help customers get to .next. We took 30 customers with us this year. I'd love to double that and take 60 customers next year. So lots of different pathways to help you feel more comfortable and help you plan. As Chris pointed out earlier, we'll work through the nitty-gritty of your applications and figure out what's compatible and what may be a problem or any potential issues. As Andy said, we've got lots of different ways to be able to show off the technology to you and make it more approachable, help your team learn. Truly believe that this is an approachable, intuitive system and that you can be successful with it. So I think all of these myths are effectively busted today. As we close out, any final thoughts, Chris or Andy?
I'm humming the theme to Ghostbusters. With
That's
that,
random.
well, Mythbusters,
Oh,
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters. Okay, I got it.
Who you gonna call? XenTegra.
Andy, you got to follow that.
Uh, how do I follow that? Um, the blog post is about how change isn't scary, and change is a natural part of growth and opportunity. Embracing change opens doors for us. It leads to fresh perspectives and possibilities. And from stone tools to smartphones, every shift has felt big, but these shifts led to progress. And I think that's what's really important here. So this blog post, it's talking about change, but what I think it's really talking about is risk. And what we're saying here is that risk that you're concerned about is minimized. It's been addressed. There are thousands of customers who have already been through it. And it's not the type of risk that you may be perceiving. So change doesn't have to be scary, and in this case, especially with the risk having been minimized, I think it's a non-issue for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great way to frame it. I spent 7 years in insurance, and we talked a lot about risk with my business associates in the company. So we did a lot of mitigation of risk with all of the different mergers and acquisitions and migrations that we handled as a team. So we'd love to help you mitigate your risks too. So reach out, info@XenTegra.com. If you don't have someone directly that you know at XenTegra, please reach out, info@XenTegra.com. And we're always here to help. We'd love to hear from you. I'll say again, thank you to Andy and Chris. Happy work anniversary to Chris Calhoun, celebrating 1 year with us. Happy that both of you guys are here and helping our clients achieve greatness. So thanks to everybody for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode. Have a great day.